Hey everybody, welcome to the People's United Bank post-game show. I'm Justine Ward alongside Tariq Turner. UConn beats Drexel by a final score of 97-65. The Huskies move to 9-3 on the season. This was a confidence-boosting win for the Huskies. Tariq, why was this a win that they should feel good about?
Well, they started off the game aggressive and they sustained it for 40 minutes, and that's what you want to see. No let-up. Balanced scoring attack. They really just shared the ball and got after each other defensively. I thought the main thing was the balanced scoring means that you don't have to depend on just Jalen Adams. You saw tonight a multitude of guys step up. Terrence Smith with the big game off the bench, and then Vital was his normal solid self, and Gilbert. So this is the strength of their team right here. The four core guards are what everyone talks about when you think about UConn basketball and their offensive firepower. All four guys played well at once, and this is the first game, I believe, that they all play well at one game and one time.
All right, well, prior to the game, head coach Dan Hurley challenged his seniors, specifically Jalen Adams. You saw both him and Terrence Smith had 10, 20 points. How did Adams respond to that push in this game?
Well, he got the message right away. In fact, he came out of the gate strong, looking to attack. And, I talked to the coaching staff after the game, and they said they weren't worried about Jalen because right after the game versus Manhattan, he went back onto the court and got some shots up to get his rhythm back and just get back in that mindset. You saw it tonight early and often. Great passes, getting to the basket, penetrating, shooting the three. He had his whole offensive repertoire going tonight, and that's the Jalen Adams that we're used to seeing.
When you have Adams firing like this, how does he help improve the team as a whole?
Well, look, you saw the energy off the bench. You saw how his teammates responded to him. They feed off of his leadership. He is the alpha dog of this team. He's the most talented player. He is the leader. And when he's playing well, when he's making shots, it opens up the game for his teammates, and that's why his other teammates were able to play so well tonight.
And we talked a little bit about another senior, Terrence Smith, 20 points, perfect from the field. Dan Hurley talked about liking his decisions. What did you see from him tonight, Tariq?
He's just an all-around really good guard. You just plug him in. You don't have to call any plays for him. He's a pit bull on defense. He attacks the rim, very, very strong, gets to the basket with that quick first step. Very good at finding space and body control and finishing with contact. And in transition, he's a blur. I call him a power guard. He's the kind of guy that has the experience, the know-how, and you don't have to really tell him much. You know what to expect from him. He's a shot maker, a big-time guy that Danny Hurley's happy to have on his team.
Smith also had 5 rebounds and 5 assists. Let's take a look at your game stats. Those are presented by Town Fair Tire. Here it is for the Huskies, who shot an impressive 60% from the field. Rebounding, 30 rebounds, and they really won the battle in the paint. 44 points in the paint tonight. They also had 10 fast break points, and they kept the turnovers down with only 10. So let's send it up to the Excel Center to Gary Apple and Tim Welsh to get their thoughts. Hey, guys.
How are you, Justine? Thank you so much. Listen, they got it done efficiently offensively, Tim. No question about that. But I'm looking at some numbers here. Drexel shot 11% from beyond the arc, right? They came in as a very good three-point shooting team, about 41% on the season. So, Dan Hurley, you can look at the offensive stats, but that's going to make him really happy.
They got smothered. There was nothing there. Every pass, and Drexel did a good job moving the ball. They didn't just hold the ball and try to get open threes and standing still, standing around. They really moved the basketball, but every time they moved the ball, UConn was quicker. They were up in their face, in their grill, on the catch, and what happened is that they were long, too. They bothered them, and they made Drexel run their offense about 30 feet from the floor, and you felt the pressure just sitting right here, and Drexel got frustrated, and really nothing was there all night long.
9-3 on the season now is UConn, and now they head for Madison Square Garden on Saturday, going to take on Villanova. It's their last out-of-conference game before they head into conference play after the first of the year. Here are the defending national champions, right? Jay Wright's team. They've been up and down so far, but they played Kansas very tough at Kansas. This is not going to be an easy game for either team. How important is this game for UConn?
Well, it's not do or die. There's no doubt about that. I mean, UConn's still trying to get there. They're not there yet against the primetime teams, but Villanova is not really the primetime that they've been. And they've shown really good signs. I thought they were impressive against Kansas on the road in maybe one of the toughest environments in the country. So maybe they found something in that game, and UConn has to be aware of it. But UConn is going to play everybody the same. They're going to attack with their pressure. And how does Villanova handle it? Villanova likes to beat you off the bounce. So UConn's going to have to get down and get dirty and really guard one-on-one basketball. And then offensively, they're going to be able to run their stuff. They're going to be able to get some points. I think it's going to be a fun game because it's going to be an up-and-down type basketball game. And Villanova doesn't have that big presence that the floor Florida States and the Iowas had that really bothered UConn. The upfront size that really bothered their bigs. Villanova doesn't have a lot of that. They've got some length. They've got some good athletes up front, but they don't have that big front line. Pascal against Yaqui and the front line of UConn is going to be the key.
How about the three-point shooting now? UConn was 10 for 17 from behind the arc. They've been struggling from downtown. Last time they really shot it really efficiently from beyond the arc was that win against Syracuse at the Garden. If they are going to go deep this year or make it to the NCAA tournament, must they be efficient from beyond the arc?
Yes, but their defense can get them scoring, get them in transition in other ways. As long as they rebound the basketball, they're getting their guards to rebound better. Vital's really become a good rebounder. Smith can rebound the ball. He's on the attack and transition. If they rebound, that means they can run. Playing in the half court is not always what they want to do because they don't have a lot of scoring inside. Right. But their threes tonight were all good threes. They move off good ball movement, good spacing, and making the extra pass.
So UConn gets the victory, and a good one here tonight in this big win over Drexel. So let's send it back to the studio right now, Justine and Tariq. Guys.
Well, Gary, I have another matchup to ask you about. Before I let you guys go, we came across some footage of you and Tariq playing a game of horse. Now, Tariq has been talking a big game, but I did hear your mid-range game is solid. Do you care to comment?
Well, I will comment because Tariq and I got after it on Saturday at shoot-around before the UConn-Manhattan game when Tariq was in for Timmy here. Full disclosure, this guy played for St. John's, was very efficient, big man. I won the first game of horse, and before the game was over, Tariq was like, I want a rematch.
See, here's the difference. Yes. Here's the difference, Gary. When Tariq's in, you guys do work on your ball handling and your shooting and play horse. When I'm in, the ex-coach, I just want to get to Gino's restaurant for my plate of gnocchi. That's all I care about. I don't want to play horse. I got to get to Gino's.
There was no horse this morning, but I will say that after I won that first game, Tariq just destroyed me in the next three. So,
well, you set the tone. G. Apple, you set the tone, and you got my attention in that first game. And that mid-range game, the mid-range jump shot was on fire. So I had to go into my trick bag and figure out what I could do to get some wins. So it was a nice battle. I respect your game, and I understand why you are the man everyone talks about as the man on rebound.
You're very kind.
Tariq has just got a little pop in his step, though, because he's got his Red Storm are 10-0. That's the only reason. He's feeling a little confident at the Christmas.
I'm staying humble. We'll talk after the new year.
All right, guys. I will end on this, and I talk about it all the time. The art of the mid-range jumper.
Yep.
Right?
It's a lost art.
Get enough of that. It's a lost art.
Jalen Adams had it tonight.
Yes, he did. Good to see you guys.
All right. Thanks so much, Gary and Tim. All right, so back to the game at hand for UConn. They shot over 58% from beyond the arc. What does that tell you about their three-point shooting, especially as we talked about coming into this game that it was kind of on a downward trend?
And it's funny, we did talk about it in the pregame segment, and I said, look, this is a team that has more than very, very capable shooters. They're streaky, but tonight they made shots, and a lot of it had to do with crisp ball movement, making the extra pass, and just good spacing, stepping into their shots. They got off to a good start, and when you see the ball go through the net, it gives you some confidence, it gives you some momentum, and that's really why getting off to a start early was so important. Jalen Adams was the catalyst along with Terrence Smith, and then when they got out, the wings were running wide, they were looking for their shots, and running their offense really became an easy thing because they had all the guys in the right place, and I think this is a good step going into Villanova as they get ready for league play.
4 players in double figures, when they're shooting like that, what makes it difficult to beat UConn?
Well, they're already a team that likes to run in transition, so you don't want to be a team, like Tim Welsh said, that just has to beat you in the half court. But you have to be able to score a variety of ways, and this is a team whose core is based on their guards. Those 4 guards in particular are going to be the catalyst. So drive and kick is their strength. Pick and roll basketball, getting in the gaps means you're going to have angles and you're going to have outlets to pass to your wings. And when you have 4 or 5 guys on the floor that can stretch the court, then it makes your team more dangerous, and that's what we saw tonight. Again, the Huskies shot an impressive 60% from the field in this win. Still so much more to do on the People's United Bank postgame show. Full game highlights coming your way. You're also going to hear from head coach Dan Hurley and Jalen Adams, who had 20 points on the night. Stay with us.
The UConn men's basketball postgame show is presented by People's United Bank.
So at UConn, Jalen Adams held to 2 points on Saturday against Manhattan. First half, UConn up 9-8. Adams puts up the layup for his 4th point of the game. Adams surpasses his total from last game already. Soon later, Huskies up 4 here. Terrence Smith drives, gets the bucket and 1. Huskies lead by 7. Midway through the first, UConn now up 10. Adams dribbles around the defender, pulls up and hits the jumper there, Tariq.
That's the part of his game that's so dangerous, that mid-range action, using the pick and roll, creating space, and elevating over the top.
UConn now up 13. Smith with the steal here, takes it himself all the way, scoops up the shot, gets another and 1. Smith 13 points in the first half. Later on in the first, Huskies up 18. Sidney Wilson with the block. Brendan Adams brings it up the court. Ball is passed to Josh Carlton. Misses the layup, but Wilson there for the huge dunk.
Well,
That's pretty.
Well, Wilson, he's showing flashes of what he can become. A high-flying athlete that plays both ends of the court. First with the block and then the follow-up dunk. I like it.
All right, to the second half. UConn up 18. Jalen Adams knocks down the 3 from up top. UConn 10 for 17 beyond the arc. Soon later, Adams misses the shot here, but Christian Vitale there for the rebounds and the putback.
That's just a grown man rebound right there. He wanted that more.
Adams kept it going, though. He beats here the defender. Adams had a good night, 20 points total. Here he is, beats the defender, hits the jumper in the lane. Adams finished with 20, as we said. UConn now cruising. The ball sent up to Smith. Huge dunk to point the exclamation point on the game. Smith 20 points as well. Huskies win 97-65. Here it is, your scoreboard here. The seniors really led the way for Connecticut. Terrence Smith and Jalen Adams both had 20 points. Adams with 3 assists, Smith with 5. Let's hear from Maria Marino, who is with Jalen Adams.
Jalen, you told me you were disappointed with your previous effort. How were you able to turn that around?
I think just having good energy and just following the game plan. I think today my teammates, they knew I was disappointed with my performance last game, so they kind of looked at me early, tried to get me going, so just praise to them.
Do you feel like the team as a whole was able to clean some things up tonight, and what specifically?
I think we did a lot better not turning the ball over as much. I think we had like 10 turnovers. That's still way too many if we want to be as good as we say we want to be. So we just got to work on that. But overall, I think we did a good job coming to a jump stop and just making the right pass.
Looking ahead to your next opponent, the reigning national champions, how do you get ready for that one?
You just got mentally, you just got to know it's going to be a war for the full 40 minutes. And then you just got to lock in on their personnel. They're so talented at every position. So we just got to mentally be prepared and let our game do the rest.
All right, Jalen, thank you so much. Back to you guys.
That was Jalen Adams. You heard him, Tariq, talk about being energetic there. The Huskies really came out of both halves firing, and they continued to bring that energy. As a former player, why is that easier said than done, to bring the energy?
Well, you know, in Jalen Adams' case, you know, he should know better because he's a senior. But to answer your question, sometimes it's a subconscious thing where you're playing a team that on paper is not as talented as you, so you think you can just go through the motions and it's just going to happen. Meanwhile, the other team is playing their hearts out and they're trying to go at you, and it can end up not making you look good. And that's what happened to Jalen Adams in the previous game versus Manhattan. Tonight he responded, and he brought that energy from the jump. You could tell just by looking at him, his body language. You know, he was aggressive. He used that pick and roll really efficiently, and his teammates fed off of his energy. And that's really what you wanted to see. The energy started with him, and it carried throughout the rest of the team.
Well, the Huskies, you heard Jalen talk about not turning the ball over as much. They only had 10 turnovers tonight. What did you see improve in that area, Tariq?
Ball security was at a premium, and they certainly got the message. Danny Hurley has been preaching this. Every practice, he says, look, we're not going to be what we want to be if we can't take care of the ball. You saw that they valued the possessions. They executed in the fast break. They had a couple moments versus Manhattan where they were just blowing transition opportunities by not playing good basketball. They weren't making good decisions. Tonight, they did a much better job with the exception of a couple moments. They were very, very solid with the basketball. And I think it just comes down to taking your time, keeping the game simple, and making the right play. That's what they did tonight.
And as you said, Tariq, looking ahead to Villanova, Villanova. It's very important that they don't turn the ball over in that game.
Absolutely. And there's no question Villanova is going to be ready. That's going to be a throwback Big East game. It's going to feel like it's the Big East tournament.
Well, before we go to break, let's see who is lighting up the boards. This is presented by Connecticut Lighting Center. It's Christian Vitale leading the Huskies in rebounds for the second straight game. Terrence Smith with a strong game off the bench with 5 boards of his own. Well, we're just getting going on the People's United Bank post-game show. Coming up after the break, we will hear from the head coach, Dan Hurley, at his post-game press conference. We're back after this. Time now for your People's United Bank Player of the Game. And who else could it be besides the senior Jalen Adams? One game after his worst performance in over 2.5 years, Adams scored 20 points on 8 of 12 shooting as he controlled the game from the jump. The point guard is your People's United Bank Player of the Game. Now let's go back to Hartford and hear from the head coach, Dan Hurley.
Obviously, much happier with, with today's performance than the Saturday night. I thought the guys responded well. I thought the older players, the leaders, prepared the right way. Coming off of the, the kind of the dreary performance versus Manhattan, and we just looked sharp. We looked determined. We took a, very good offensive team, and and didn't make them look very good at times out there. I thought we did a good job taking away the three-point line from the guys that we wanted to take it away from. Forced turnovers, but we were responsible, and they shot obviously a higher percentage in the second half, but I thought they hit some tough twos, in the paint there. But overall, just pretty pleased with the way we responded, and just good to see the ball go in, and good to see the turnover numbers down, going into obviously a big game on Saturday. So.
You like the way Jalen responded, not only tonight, but practice the last couple of days after, obviously you're pretty critical of him Saturday night. Yeah. Tough game. You like the way he responded? Yeah, I mean, listen,
I have sky-high expectations for Jalen Adams, and so does he. He handled it the right way. In terms of owning it, and in everything we did, super attentive, super serious, in terms of his preparation for this one. And, we talked about Atonement Tuesday. We wanted to atone for our performance on Saturday. And, he led the charge that way. And, considering it wasn't looking good for him with the 2 early fouls. So, I thought he did a great job.
Kind of hollered out full 40 minutes. Is that kind of the message that you really wanted to, or a statement that you really wanted to make tonight? There's no backing off, letting them back into the game.
Yeah, I mean, because I thought this was the best team of, you exclude the Syracuses and the Florida States and, the Iowas and Arizona. This was obviously the best team of those probably other teams we've played, and. So we obviously felt like we had to play better, but super talented teams, like they could pick their spots and play in spurts and maybe play a good 30 minutes and beat a good team. For us to beat teams like Villanova or the better teams in our league, or even the middle of our league, which is much stronger, I think, than what people anticipated, like we're going to have to play a full 40. I mean, and that shouldn't be a hard concept. You should be able to fully focus and concentrate at both ends of the court for 40 minutes. So it's got to be our mindset moving forward.
Did you like what Taryn gave you when you sort of had to lean on him a little bit? Jalen goes out with the 2 fouls. You came back with Jalen anyways, but it seemed like you can rely on him, when needed in spots like that.
He just looked decisive. I didn't think he over-dribbled. I thought he got downhill quickly. He did work the baseline a little bit when he couldn't finish at the rim, and then he sprayed it, or passed it. But I thought it started at the defensive end. He was really hounding the ball, and just he was on the glass. Anytime you have 5 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal, it just means you're playing the game and you're locked in and you're not just hunting offense. And I think he might have fell into that trap a little bit early in the year because he had so much success scoring it. But he played at a high level today, both ends and on the glass.
Did the shot selection, the low turnovers, kind of contribute that to just better decision making overall?
Yeah, we just the guy's just more responsible, and like we're going to have our turnover numbers are probably like they're going to be double figure because of our pace of play. I think going into this game we're somewhere top 30 in the country in pace of play. So there's a lot more possessions in our games, so therefore there's a lot more. So for us, it's like percentage of possessions where we turn the ball over is probably a more important number for us. And minus like, some of those, most of our turnovers today, they weren't like casual, like low rent passing attempts that made no sense. We probably picked up half of them on travels and maybe 1 or 2 charges today. So like we just were more responsible when we threw the ball to somebody, and that's critical for us. We can't. The live ball turnovers have just killed us in the bigger games.
Given how Drexel's been able to come back against their other opponents this year, how happy are you with that? Your guys putting Drexel away today? Yeah, I mean, we just. Again, I think these guys wanted to atone for what we all felt like was, an empty win on Saturday, a hollow win, and a performance if you're coaching or playing at UConn that you can't feel good about. So, I just think that we were, we had a pop to us and shoot around the last couple of days. I think these guys understood that, you can't show up and play that way.
That was the head coach, Dan Hurley, pretty positive in that post-game press conference, as he should be. He was very happy with how his team took apart Drexel's offense. How were they able to do that, Tariq?
Well, they set the tone defensively, and that's what Danny Hurley referenced in the press conference. The hounding, suffocating ball pressure really made Drexel uncomfortable the whole game. And this is a team in Drexel that averaged 82 points a game going into this game tonight, and that just was not even close. They scored 65 points, and it was all very hard-earned just because UConn would not let up. Their ball pressure was excellent. They got past the first couple minutes where there were a lot of fouls called, and once they settled in, they just were swarming. And, the ball pressure would not really drop off. And all 5 guys were locked in. They rotated. They blocked shots. And then they held Drexel to 18% from 3. And that was huge because that means they're getting good contests. And then they were only limiting them to 1 shot and then getting the rebound and running.
And, Tariq, we know how important it is to Coach Hurley that his team finishes games strong. They did that tonight. Why is that important at this point in the season?
Well, anytime you're playing a team and you're better than that team, you don't want to have any complacency or any drop-off. And tonight they did not show that. They went up as much as 36, I think, and it was just a dominant effort all the way through. That's the sign of a mature team. That's the sign of a team that has no let-up in them, that they understand that every minute is a way to get better and prepare for the rest of the season. And this is why I think this was probably the most complete win from start to finish for UConn so far this season.
A big boost for the Huskies heading into a big matchup with Villanova this weekend. And coming up on the People's United postgame show, a big matchup for the Huskies on the horizon, as we said, with conference play looming. We're going to take a look at that Villanova game and give our final thoughts next. For Terrence Smith puts up the huge one-handed dunk. Smith still bringing the energy late in the game and monster slam. He finished with 20 points off the bench. That, everybody, is your drive of the game. Let's take a look at UConn's next 5 games. The Huskies will travel to Madison Square Garden this Saturday as they face the defending national champion Villanova Wildcats. Then UConn begins American Conference play on Wednesday, January 2nd against USF. So a big test for the Huskies as they get ready for conference play. What are you encouraged by heading into that matchup with Villanova, Tariq?
Well, their depth is starting to show through, and you're starting to see some guys, particularly Sidney Wilson and Kasum Yakwe, that are showing flashes of really adding to that defensive presence, their shot blocking ability, the activity around the glass, and just their depth in terms of being versatile wing forwards. When they can play small lineups, these guys, Wilson and Yakwe, will fit in very well with Danny Hurley's system. In the last couple games, I've been very encouraged by their performance. It's not just about the scoring, it's about their energy, their athleticism, and their ability to defend the rim is really something that I think can help this team going through the season.
Tariq, how does this team match up with Villanova?
You know, I think they match up well. Villanova is not the same team as last year, for one. They don't have a lot of size. Eric Pascal is their biggest front line guy at 6'7". Is really a perimeter-oriented team, similar to UConn. So it's going to be about guard play. It's going to be about matchups and tempo. Both teams like to push it up-tempo and get out and run. There's going to be a lot of threes shot. I really think it's going to be an interesting matchup to see which guards can win the matchup. I think whichever guards outplay, that's the team that's going to win.
Well, the Huskies get a big win tonight. They have another big test ahead before conference play. And this is our final men's game of the UConn season here on SNY. We thank you so much for joining us. I'm Justine Ward with Tariq Turner. We're going to sign off from New York City. We're going to leave you with the sights and sounds from tonight's win.
There's Smith all the way to the basket. Again, all the way to the goal. The window and in. Adams driving all the way to the basket.
This is when he's at his best, just kind of finding that seam all the way to the rim.
Sidney Wilson getting from one end to the other, and he loves it. Tyler Polley giving it up from beyond the arc. Here comes Terry Smith out of the break, rising up. The stop. All smiles on the Connecticut sideline.